My God, you hear? I am so excited. Guess what? I hope this isn't about your podcast again. Why? Did you finally listen to it?
Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. The Groomer Next Door production. You're listening to BYOTP Radio. Coming up next, the Groomer Next Door.
Hello, Pups and Kittens, and welcome to another fun and informative episode of The Groomer Next Door. I am your host, Chris Green, and joining me in just a few minutes is the president and CEO of an amazing pet food company called Dr. Harvey's. Wendy Cohen will be joining us, and I look forward to sitting down, talking with her about everything pet related, and learning a lot about Dr. Harvey's. But before then, let's dive into the fact of the week. 18 muscles or more can move a dog's ear. Now, small kind of fact, and yet huge amount of effort. Who would think that? Every time you talk to your dog and go, "Hey, how's it going?" And that ear twitches, goes up, goes aside, that's a lot of muscles making it move. 18 or more. That is amazing. All right, well, let's dive into the weekly roundup.
The weekly roundup, yeah.
Just a couple pieces of information I wanted to go over this week. This week, I was asked to join the board for Phelps County Animal Welfare League, which I graciously accepted. Circumstances happened where they needed extra board members, and I had always told Sarah if it was needed, I would join. I was always happy being a volunteer. That was my happiness. I was completely content there. But things happened, and I was willing to step up to the plate. I am the animal shelter liaison, which I think that comes with a side board meeting you have to go to for right here in Phelps County, finding out about what's going on with the new shelter, etc., etc. And I'm happy to actually be part of that. Saturday was the pet food pantry, which, as always, was an absolute blast to be able to help out, help our neighbors, be able to feed pups and kittens, even though it isn't the stuff I would love to give them. A full belly is better than an empty belly, so it's kind of one of those battles. And lastly, ways back, you may remember Sarah and I, we took in a couple kittens that were in a trailer, and they hadn't ate in quite a while. And so we took them in, we did everything we could, and luckily Shelly, who is also a very, very intelligent lady here in town, was able to help out because she had a nursing mom. Well, circumstances came up, and she's needing to move, and so we, of course, wanted to help out, so we have both Daisy and Dusty back. They are currently always on display over at the shop, and we're going to do everything we can to find them a forever home, but in the meantime, we're going to enjoy them. And with that, it seems like our guest has arrived. Introducing Wendy Cohen.
Oh, hello. Hold on a sec. Dad, we have a guest on the podcast.
This week we have by far one of the best pet food brands on the market right now. We have Wendy Cohen. She is the president and CEO of Dr. Harvey's. Thank you very much for being on the podcast.
It's my pleasure, Chris. I'm so happy to have this time with you.
I am too, and I'm looking forward to our conversation. And
before I even go any further, this is such a funny thing with me. Every time, and I don't understand it. It's kind of weird. I have an animated brain, I guess. I always think, okay, the CEO is in the top of the 43rd floor of some New York sky-rise building talking to me. I don't know why that goes into my head, even though some people are on the other coast. I don't know why I think that. It's ridiculous.
Well, you can keep that picture in your head, but know that I'm in our facility where we manufacture everything, and my office is just off to the side of all the production. So it's not a high-rise, it's a low-rise in central New Jersey. We're about an hour and a half out of New York City, and this is where we produce everything, and this is where we run the show. So you can think of me in that big high-rise, but I'm not there.
Well, I don't know why that always pops into my head. It's a ridiculous notion, but it's something I think of all the time. And it's funny because one person I do enjoy knowing listens is my mom and grandmother, who are on the West Coast, and my grandmother is from Clifton, New Jersey. I think I got that
not
right.
far.
Not far.
Not far.
So when I started this whole process and I saw New Jersey, I went, oh, it's kind of the start of my roots, I guess you could say. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Sure.
Well, I like to start every topic, every bit of the podcast with the origin story. And that's pretty much where we're going to go is, what is the origin story of Dr. Harvey's?
Well, we have a wonderful story because we've been around for a very long time, and Dr. Harvey, who is my husband and a real person, people always say, you mean there really is a Dr. Harvey? There actually really is a Dr. Harvey, and he was a physician for humans in New York City for many, many years and was very involved in nutrition for humans, but he loved animals, always was a huge animal fan. And people started coming to him with problems about their dogs and cats. And so he was working on nutrition for them, and he was appalled. And we're going back now to the early 80s. He was appalled by the number of people that were coming to him and saying that their dogs had cancer. So that was really the beginning where he started to look at what we were feeding our animals and sort of looked at commercial dog food primarily, although we do make bird food and things for cats as well. And seeing the amount of chemicals and the amount of additives, dyes, and things that were being added into dog food, and he started doing a tremendous amount of research on animal nutrition. And from that research, he came up with a recipe, which was for home cooking. And he actually went around and lectured and gave out that recipe to people all over the country for many years. And what he found was very similar to humans. When they were sick, when the dogs were sick, people would do the home cooking. But when the dogs got better, it was too much work. And so they went back to feeding dog food, canned food, or kibble food. And so he thought about it. He said, there's got to be an easier way to do this home cooking. And that was just at the beginning of when freeze-dried food became a thing, where you could actually freeze-dry food, and the technology was there to be able to do it. And so he developed what he called a premix, and to this day we still use that same recipe. It's a product called Canine Health, and it is a base to which people add fresh meat and oil to make a complete meal. So his idea was fresh is best. We still believe that as a company, fresh is best. Feed fresh food, feed real food, feed untainted food, and do the best you can to feed your animal as close to nature as possible. And from that one recipe, the company began. And we started doing the freeze-dried premix, and he also developed one of our earliest products is a topical cream that's called the Organic Healing Cream, which is a shea butter calendula-based product that you use for hot spots and cuts and hives and anything that has to do with the skin. And really those two products was where we started. And he's also an herbalist, so he wanted to develop supplements, and to this day we have a whole line of herbal supplements. They're all whole food supplements that we make. Everything we do here in our own facility, we really mix and put together the herbs these organic herbs that we procure from all over the country. And he develops these plant-based formula that have worked incredibly well throughout the years. And now we're into 30 years doing this. So that's really how it started, and it's grown. Now we still run the company. Dr. Harvey spends most of his time on the phone talking to people whose dogs need some help, and now two of my three sons work with us every day in developing the company and helping us grow and getting the word out. And so we're still a relatively small family-run business, and sticking to the original mission, which is teaching people to feed their animals better.
Wow. Wow. I'm sitting here like almost having a full-on story being told that I'm absolutely immersed in. I didn't realize I really didn't realize all of that. So that's, it's so cool to know it's a family operated operation.
It
And
is.
especially thinking I have one child who I would love to see become a veterinarian. Even though I have nothing against grooming, I just want to aspire for her to be a lot more. And I would just love to have the ability to have a shop where a vet's next to it. But you actually are able to have a facility with your sons there. That is amazing. That is
It
just
is.
so amazing.
It's really, it's my great joy, and I wake up every day and say how lucky I am to have my family run this business with me. Everyone believes in what we do. Everyone is 100% behind the mission. We're all animal lovers, so it's interesting because they grew up with this, and the fact that they've committed their lives to it is really pretty amazing.
Boy. And to know that Dr. Harvey is still, as much involved, trying to help. I mean, that's so cool. And to think, most regular physicians, they stay in that realm, but to actually kind of, in a sense, take a side road into the veterinary side. I mean, yes, I get the anatomies, they're similar, but I can just see his brain where it intrigued him and he wanted to learn more and come up with better options, because there really hasn't been a lot of options. We've got the big players and the big players. And that's
Yeah, well,
just amazing.
he really, I mean, that's exactly it. It was intriguing to him, and because he was a true animal lover and he saw what was happening in the pet food industry and it was disturbing to him, that's exactly what brought him into it. And to this day, it is what continues to drive him every single day. And we really have become a solutions company. So very often people find us because we don't have the marketing dollars of the big pet food companies, the Purinas and the Hills of this world. So people find us, we always say people find us when they need us most, when they need us most, yeah. So, yeah, go on, sorry.
No, I've always heard of you guys, and I've actually heard of you guys in the big players level. So when you say no, you guys are actually kind of small, I'm like, no, I've always heard of you guys as one of the big players, and I've always looked at your product as being the big player with the pure, true product that actually had all of the right herbs, ingredients, vegetables, proteins. It had everything correct and was a big player. And even on, which we were talking before we started, even with social media, you guys are perceived as one of the tops, literally, because of the big players. They, of course, always take the top spot, but the top pure spot is with you guys at Dr. Harvey. So I'm actually more or less, I'm kind of geeking out because I'm like, you guys are so amazing. Don't sell yourself short. You guys are at the top of the level.
Well, that's really very nice to hear, and I'm sure my sons will be thrilled to hear you say that. We do have a big social media presence, and but we do everything ourselves. We still, if you came and hopefully you will be able to see eventually, come into our facility and see what we do here. But we have no machines. We still do everything by hand. Everything is mixed, bagged, and labeled by hand.
Nice.
So we're still very artisanal in a kind of way, and we like it like that. Dr. Harvey still oversees everything that goes into every product. Even though we've grown, and yes, we are an international company, and we're still very hands-on, and no one else makes the product. We don't private label it for anyone else. We we're very picky about what we put out there, because we wouldn't ever make a product or feed a product that we wouldn't give to our own animals, and our own animals are like our own children. And we just pride ourselves on that in over 30 years we've never had a recall. And even though we know that can happen, you can get product that isn't perfect, but we're very, very careful about what we bring into our facility and how we make it.
That was another thing that I really was meticulous. When I ever look into any product, I want to make sure, especially if it's any kind of nutritional food product, I want to make sure, is there any kind of recalls? Is there any kind of flags that might come up? Because again, you can contact every company out there, and it's just a matter of, do you want quality or quantity? And that's one thing with me. It has to be quality. And I noticed that was one thing. You guys are 100% on point. And that's a test to all of you, your sons, your husband, you being right there at the front saying standards are going to be met. And this is how it is. If you don't like it, there's other pet stores, pet companies that will lower it for you. Go work there. And I love that about you guys.
Well, thank you. That's really good to hear. And it's true. It is true. As a matter of fact, if there's a blight on a particular vegetable and we can't get it, we will not buy a cheaper version. So sometimes people get very annoyed because the product that they want is backordered, because if we don't have the ingredient, we don't make the product. So we never go for the cheaper version to try to save some dollars here. It's never really been about making a lot of money for us. It's always been about putting out the very best product that we can. And we try to stay on the cutting edge. We really were pioneers in the beginning of all natural products, and we try and stay that course, constantly learning, constantly finding out what's best and new and what can help the animals the most. And that has led us to the launch of our newest product that we just launched a few months ago, called Paradigm, which is a base for a low-carb and ketogenic diet, which we can talk about more in depth later, but just that we are always looking for the best. And I started to say that people find us when they need us. They are looking for a solution, and very often people come to us when their dog, unfortunately, has been diagnosed with an issue, or they have a skin problem that they've not been able to clear up, or the dog gets diagnosed with kidney disease or cancer, God forbid, or diabetes. We're the company that they turn to and to say, help me, save my dog, save my dog. And we literally get hundreds of emails a day, literally. We answer every single one by hand and help guide people to try a homemade diet and try and teach them to do it specifically for the issue that they're dealing with.
And, that was one of my things, since we kind of went into the ketogenics. Last week we had Keto Pet on. And,
oh, nice.
And it was amazing hearing about it. And, I had done a little bit of research into it, but, I've had this kind of Q&A through social media this week over, ketogenics. And I find it to be just the most unique puzzle, I guess you could say, to try to, look and read and listen to other doctors talk about it. And I was going to, go into it, but you just mentioned the product. I want to know more because I want to hear it from your perspective, what you guys are doing, because it really has kind of fueled my brain to watch different people and read more up on it, because again, like you said, they call when they need you most. I get that. And to know that you guys are actually right there on the front line saying, okay, well, we have a product that can help with it.
Well, again, it's a premix that helps people to figure out a way to do a ketogenic diet. It's interesting how we came to it. I actually started being on a ketogenic diet myself. That's how this started. I was having a health issue. I couldn't get it under control. I'd been a vegan for many, many years, and it was not helping. And I said, you know what, I got to open up my mind. I got to look at something different. And I started reading about ketosis and ketogenic diets, and I said, you know what, I'm going to give this a whirl. And I did, and the result was really fascinating and wonderful, and it's helped me tremendously. And as I was looking at it, I found Keto Pet.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, this is really interesting. They're using ketogenic diets for dogs. So I reached out to Keto Pet and spoke with them. And actually, Dr. Harvey and I attended the conference in Florida last February where Keto Pet did their presentation, this big conference with researchers from all over the world, human side and animal side, discussing the research into ketogenic diets. And it was just a fascinating 4 days of listening to these incredible people, including the people from Keto Pet talking about their first study on the I think it was 160 dogs that they brought in from shelters, and they had like a 60% turnaround with cancer. So we already had this food paradigm in the works when we went to the conference, and we were just thrilled to see that, we could help people figure out this diet and make it easy for them to do. So it's not a complete diet. They still have to add the meat and the fat, which is like all of our other premixes as well, but the vegetables in it are very low glycemic and very low carb. And then to that, we've added bone broth and turmeric and dandelion and cinnamon and all these things that are just wonderful for blood sugar, keeping the blood sugar level. And that's the whole key to a ketogenic diet, is making sure that you keep the glucose low and that there's no sugar. And of course, it's a completely anti-kibble diet. So we found it to be extremely helpful for dogs with tumors and cancer, and also for dogs who are diabetic. And it's also a great way for dogs who are obese to lose weight. So we're just thrilled, and Paradigm has just been embraced. We've done very little marketing, but the word got out, and we've had it out there. We've been working with several holistic veterinarians in the development. And as I told you earlier before we started recording, we're going to be launching it at the Holistic Veterinary Conference in San Diego in October.
Wow. It's funny. Again, back to before we start recording, it's so funny. All the people that have become part of this podcast through the time, and Daniel Orrego was just here. I just spoke with him by text today, and I'm pretty sure he'll be listening to this, so I'm sure he's going to be excited to hear his name out there. The fact that Keto Pet was mentioned again, and it's just what catches me through all of this is just this circle that keeps being formed of, oh, okay, you've heard of this person, okay, well, and it's I can't really grasp it in this industry. It's a small industry, yet it's a very large industry, which I know is completely, counterproductive what I'm saying, but there is this small group that is doing the right work, and then you have the rest. And that's kind of the best way of putting it is, it seems like everybody who's doing the right work, I'm lucky and I'm very fortunate to be able to talk to, people like you and to be able to have this conversation and say, oh my gosh, I know exactly who you're talking about, and then hear what you're doing, and you're doing the same thing of, we see the properties, we see the problem, and we're trying to make something that's going to help, and it just makes me feel better every time. And you're continuously making me feel better about a product that I was already very excited about, very excited to talk to you before this. And then,
That's great. That's great. Yeah,
you keep
you're
doing
absolutely
it.
right. It's still a very small group of people, but we have very loud voices.
Yeah.
And we know we all feel like we're on a mission, and we felt like that for 30 years. So our mission has always been tell people that dog food isn't good for dogs. When the whole industry has been about, you got to feed your dog food, you got to feed this is what dogs eat, and it's a balanced diet, and this is dog food, and once that light bulb goes off and you understand that dog food, commercial dog food, is just about the worst thing you could feed your dog to keep it healthy, and then you see the numbers of the numbers on the rise of all these acquired diseases, more cancer, more diabetes, more obesity, and you want to know what's this about, and then you become a parent and you say, would I feed my children pretzels every single day or Cheerios every single day? No. So how would you feed your dog this brown kibble every single day?
Yep.
And
I'm with you.
so, that we are still a very small group in this very large industry, but we have big voices, and I think we're all very passionate about what we believe in, and we all want to do the right thing. And we may never take over the industry, but it doesn't really matter. We just will get the information out there, and we feel at Dr. Harvey's that we've been educating people. That's really been our mission for 30 years. And Dr. Harvey was a pioneer, and he continues to have that mission behind him. He speaks to people every single day. We don't charge for that service. Nobody gets a bill for it. They just have the benefit of speaking to him and listening to his wisdom. And we feel as a company that that's something we need to do to give back.
And honestly, to be able to talk to, and I'm going to say this the easiest way possible, to be able to talk to Dr. Harvey or to talk to you is an absolute honor for anybody, including myself. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, you guys really are pioneers, no kidding. And it's just amazing to know that you actually, give up time to just talk to people and educate. That is just amazing. So I thank you for that one.
Thank you. Well, it's a part of our mission, so we always want to do that, because you never know who's listening. You never know that one thing you're going to say that's going to help somebody's dog. Maybe that somebody's listening to us right now that just got a terrible diagnosis, and they're devastated, and they're looking for answers, and maybe just listening to the two of us talk is going to help that one dog. And that's really, what else could we ask?
That's really the hope. I mean, it was always the mission is to start the podcast to help at least one person. And then once you help that one, help two. And then from 2 to 4. And that's always been the hope here. So,
it's so true. It's so true. And people are very down on the internet, and people say, "Oh, terrible Facebook." But the truth is, it has been a way to get the information out, and in a certain way, it has leveled the playing field, because all these big companies, the Purinas and the Hills of the world, they've got tons and tons of money that you and I will never have. But we know what we're saying, we're educating, and we can level the playing field when it comes to getting the word out on the internet. So it's just about being constant and being close to your mission and connecting with other people who are like-minded, knowing about Keto Pet, sharing that information, seeing what Cole has done with Pet Food and how brilliant he has marketed this movie so that he's informed so many people who didn't know about what was going on in the pet food industry. So and I know that Karen Becker and Rodney Habib are coming out with a film about canine cancer, and it's all connected. It really is all connected, and I think we all have the same mission.
I think so, and I think that when I look at the internet, I look at anything can be used as a weapon. I mean, you could say the internet, you could say a fork. Anything can be used as a weapon, and it is, unfortunately, but it's also used in a lot of good ways. So it's just in the hands of the user. That's how we really know what's a weapon and what's not. And of course, we're going to find people who are going to, of course, say terrible things about everything. And then there's people who are like, I'm just here to learn something.
Right.
It's a percentage. Now, I mentioned this before we started. My biggest question I always ask everybody in the pet food industry about soapboxing. And I kind of give you a little bit of a brief rundown. Soapboxing for me is whenever I'm in a grocery store, a big box store, and I see somebody with a bag of garbage, dog or cat food. And I just want to at least try to turn that light switch on of, oh, this isn't good. So now this question is a two-parter, because obviously Dr. Harvey, since he's not here, you'll have to kind of answer for him, but I'm pretty sure just like my wife would, she'd have no problem answering for her if I do it. Do you or your husband, whenever you see somebody buying that product, do you ever just kind of say something like, oh, and I'll give an example. I was talking with my wife. I saw this one woman looking at 2 bags of cat food. They were your typical garbage cat food, but they were charging $20 for it instead of the typical $10. But she swears up and down that it actually helps cure fur balls. It doesn't. But in her mind, she's like, well, I'm spending $20. It must. I pulled out 2 bags of cat food, showed the protein, showed all the ingredients, and said, same thing, if you spent $10 for that garbage or $20, it's still garbage. So my question is, do you or your husband ever do anything in that realm, or do you pretty much kind of leave it to people like me who just go around the grocery store and big box stores saying things?
Well, I don't usually go down the pet aisle in the grocery store, or do I go into big box stores, to be honest with you. But I think after 30 years of teaching, we both feel that people will find us as teachers when they're ready to hear what we have to say. And I think it's very hard to tell people, there are ways to say to someone, this isn't the right way, but it usually is when someone comes to us. Now, of course, we have a platform, so you do too, but we're very fortunate to be in touch with thousands and thousands of people. So we have a platform where people can reach out to us. We have a Facebook page where people can ask questions. We have a very, very dense website that has lots of information on it and videos, and we really try and educate people on our website. So we're putting out that information all the time, but would I do it one-on-one? I think I'm always standing on a soapbox, to be honest with you, but I don't think that I would walk into a store. If someone asked me when I was in a store and opened that door and said, "What's your opinion?" I would be more than happy to give my opinion. And by the way, I don't think cats should eat dry food at all. If I had one pet peeve, no pun intended on the pet peeve, cats with dry food is just as bad as it is for dogs. It's worse for cats.
Dehydration.
And it's just devastating. I think what it does to cats. I really am very. If I could change one thing, if somebody said to me, change one thing, it would be to make kibble for cats illegal. Take it off the market.
I'll say one thing though, in the topic of soapboxing, you had the best answer, I think, and the best put, the most elegant answer I think I've heard yet. And that says a lot. I mean, I've had a lot of people say different things, and you had the best one. So you currently hold that seat of best answers.
I love it. So that's very nice.
I personally, I remember this one lady. It was just a few weeks ago. I was listening to 2 women that I absolutely adore. The 2 crazy cat ladies, and they were doing a Facebook Live, and I was just so happened doing grocery shopping at the same time. And as I was, going down an aisle, I was actually pulling out a couple cat bags because I was watching them, and I was just reading the actual ingredients. And the woman did kind of solicit information, so it wasn't that I was entirely, mauling her in the cat food aisle, but it did become a topic. So, I mean, I'm not gonna, completely blindside somebody, but it was something I was like, come on. I mean, yikes. And, I was even telling you before we even recorded, we get solicited in our own shop about nutrition, but most of the time when somebody discusses their issues, they kind of want to tell us their problems, but as for solution, not as much looking for the solution. Just want to kind of vent. Well, my dog has the worst skin possible. Yeah, so unfortunately.
It's hard. And, I think a lot of people get turned off to our products because it is extra work. It is more work to have to prepare the food. It isn't ripping open a bag and pouring kibble into a bowl. We do have a complete food. Oracle is a complete food. But really, we still believe that fresh food is the best food. And we're telling people to make their day more difficult. And that's not always what people want to hear, especially people who've been used to opening a can or a bag of kibble and throwing it into a bowl. And, the thought of having to go to the supermarket or go to the health food store and get these ingredients and put it in with the food, and, for our core fan group, they wouldn't do it any other way. I can't even imagine feeding my dogs any other way. But for people who've never thought about home cooking, it's a big jump
It
because
is.
time is a big deal for people, and most people's lives are very, very busy, and they want to unclutter their lives. So they, it depends. It's clear that the way we think about our dogs and cats and birds has changed over time. People consider their animals to be part of their family, and when they do consider them that way, they're more likely to want to feed them really healthy and keep them healthy. And the other side of it is the economic side of it. If you tell people, and it is true, I believe this, it's more than a belief, I've seen it over the 30 years that I've been doing this. If you feed your animal well during its lifespan, you will save money on the vet bills.
Yes.
There's no question about it.
That is completely it.
So it's either pay now or pay later. I'd rather put the money into the nutrition when the dog is young and keep it healthy and concern yourself with the dog's health and longevity than worry about paying for the vet bill when the dog gets diabetes or cancer.
And that's usually the exact thing. I mean, you have muscular deterioration. You have bigger dogs, like we have an Akita. You run the risk of hip dysplasia. And again, where does it begin? Nutrition. It always begins there. That's one thing I don't understand is the one thing that we give our dogs every day is love and food. Okay, so that's two things. I guess I said one. Two things we give our dogs is love, and same thing with our cats. I mean, I can't imagine not having cats or dogs around me. It's love and nutrition. Those are the two things. There's no weekend. There's no days off. It's every day, and yet we're really kind of not giving them the nutrition, and that's the part that kind of throws a big red flag up to me going, wait a second here. People complain all the time. Well, I can't be bothered making these meals. Okay, but let's be realistic. How hard is it to make your product? How hard is it to make a Dr. Harvey's product? It's not that difficult.
It's so easy, and once they do it, it's more the thought of having to do it. Once you do it, it's really very simple. I mean, that was the whole point of Dr. Harvey saying, I gave out this recipe, but I was telling people they had to make the vegetables and they had to put all the herbs in. Now we make it easy. It's all you do is add water, add the meat, add the oil. It really, I have two big dogs, so I make a big container of the premix. And it stays in my fridge for 2 to 3 days, and then I add the meat when I'm ready to feed. The whole process maybe takes me 5 minutes. It's not, I'm a very busy lady, and we have 3 cats and two dogs, and, we wouldn't feed them any other way.
And see, there it is. I mean, it's as simple as that. I mean, okay, what's the hardest thing that you would say you have to worry about making? And that's the protein, correct?
Right. Right. So you have to know that you have that, the meat there every single day. Have the meat, and people do it in all different ways. If I had more space, I probably would have space for. A lot of people have freezers. I don't have that, So I go shopping almost every day for the dogs. Now, not everybody has the time to do that, but I can't imagine doing it any other way. And we feed our cats raw. We feed the dogs raw, and it doesn't have to be raw, by the way. It can be raw or slightly cooked. But yeah, you have to figure out a way to make it so that your life isn't overwhelmed. But trust me, if you have a dog that has kidney disease, or you have a dog that has diabetes that has to have insulin at every meal, then you're talking about a real time constraint.
But this is I'm pretty much in a sense venting / giving an example of what I hear. I'll say the same thing. Well, have you thought about going to raw diet? Oh no, I don't want to do that. Okay, and I give options. Okay, well, there are great products out there. There's Dr. Harvey's. You can it's really not that difficult. And I mean, look, making the protein to cook up the protein. 10, 15 minutes, something roughly around that time. I mean, I'm guesstimating, but it depends on what you're cooking, obviously. It depends on the protein. But, if you're putting chicken in, it doesn't take that long. So it's not that long of a process. Yeah, like you said it best, where it's not rip open a bag and dump and go. I guess another way of putting it into terms is plug and play. But you know where that's another thing that drives me insane in conversation with people is, well, do you know where the protein's coming from? That's the big thing.
Yeah, and and I know that the whole process of making kibble is denaturing the food. You're heating it to a certain temperature that takes all the nutrition out of it. So,
Yeah.
There's just nothing good about feeding kibble. I mean, I hate to be that blunt, but the truth is that's what's making our dogs sick.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an epidemic. I mean, you'd have to sit in my seat for a day and see the amount of sick dogs that are contacting us. It's overwhelming sometimes. I like, why do all these dogs have kidney problems?
Yeah.
We get at least 30 to 40 dogs a week writing to us. My dog was diagnosed with kidney problems. Why are all these dogs having kidney problems? This is not normal.
Yeah.
This is not natural. This is not the way it's supposed to be. And the reason is they're eating bad food. They're eating way too many carbohydrates. They're eating food that doesn't have good nutrition. They're all dehydrated from eating this food. I mean, there's any number of reasons that I can tell you that they all have this kidney disease. But we're seeing it in young dogs, Chris. We're seeing it in 4-year-old dogs, 3-year-old dogs.
Mm-hmm. And you're completely right. It's obviously what you're feeding your dog. Let's start backwards. It's what you're feeding your puppy. And then as it graduates on and on and on, it's lack of nutrition, lack of exercise. Put them both together, and you have a recipe for disaster. It's
Totally.
as simple as that.
Totally.
Now, I love and we can go down every line. It really is one of the things I love about your product is that everything is suited to the pet parent's needs. And you said it. Your website details everything. So I wanted to move on to treats. Now, you guys are very conscientious there. You have good quality treats, and that's another thing I'm really cautious about is dog treats, cat treats, and the whole thing is what separates you from the rest. Because I have a feeling I have an answer to this, but I'd love to hear from the actual person who sees it on a daily basis.
So the way that we look at the treats is, you want to be able to give your dog a reward and a treat, and you want them to love it. And you also want it to be super healthy and not be something that's going to hurt them in any way. So we have meat treats, which are single ingredient treats. They're pure freeze-dried beef, pure freeze-dried chicken, pure freeze-dried fish, and we make those for dogs and cats. And then we have sweet potato chews that are just pure sweet potatoes. There's no other ingredients. So we love these single ingredient treats where there's no additives. There's nothing added in. There's no grain in there. There's no sugar in there. There's no preservatives. They're just dehydrated sweet potatoes, pure and simple. If you could make them yourself, that's how you would make them. But here they are in a bag for you. They're soft. The dogs love them. It's great. We also do organic coconut treats for dogs, and that's pure dehydrated organic coconut. There's nothing else added. We do tripe treats, which are just pure tripe. So that's the kind of thing that we like to introduce as a treat to the dogs and the cats. It's pure, single ingredient, no additives, no mixture. They're not cookies. They're just meat, which is really what a dog and a cat need.
And two things to it. First, you had said earlier, you said you hate to be blunt, but you will. I love blunt. That's the only language I speak. Everything is blunt to me. And the other is I bet your facility must smell just amazing.
It does. It does. It really does. People can't believe it. When we moved into our new facility, we're in the middle of a small town in New Jersey. The landlord was concerned because he heard dog food and he thought, oh God, it's going to be awful. And he can't believe it. You could eat off of the floor of our facility, and there is no There's no smell. Everything is freeze-dried, so there's no smell. And, of course, Paradigm, everybody talks about how Paradigm smells when you open up the bag because it does smell incredible. The cinnamon and the bone broth and the dandelion all smell incredible. So you open up the bag, and people are always like, I can't believe how this smells. And I will tell you that throughout the years we've had many, many people tell us that they give a little to the dog and they eat a little bit of it themselves.
I would
One of my favorite all-time stories is many years, maybe going back 20 years, a woman started selling our food, and she was a boxer breeder. And she got the first bag of food and made it and put it in the refrigerator and went out. And when she came back, her husband said to her, honey, that casserole you made was just delicious. And she wrote me that story, and she said that was the dog's food.
Oh, no, but that's... Oh.
And, of course, that's the way it should be. Of course you should be able to eat it, and, of course, it should be delicious. And so that's the kind of thing, what could be bad about it? We had a distributor, another great story, a distributor, a man who was in his 80s. And his son had taken over the business, and he came in to see me one day, and he said, you know that my father takes the vegetable every week and makes vegetable soup out of it, right? I thought that was great. Wow. And that's exactly what it smells like. It smells like a vegetable soup. Totally.
But here we go back. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people that, whether it's vets or it's people who really are around this, and they said, if you should be able to eat the same thing your dog eats. It should just be modified for their life. But you should be able to ingest it as well. It shouldn't hurt a human. And I just laugh because I'm like, I've seen, I posted a video of Oracle, one of your commercials, on our Facebook page, kind of leading up to this interview, and it looks delicious. I mean, I would take a bowl of your food and eat that any day over McDonald's.
Oh yeah.
I know what's in your food.
Dr. Harvey likes to say to people, when people will call and say, I'm feeding my dog your food, and he says, your dog is eating better than 99% of the people in this country.
Yeah. And see,
that's the way we want it. That's
yes.
the way we want it.
Yes. I'm with you on that. I would like to see that as well. I mean, I don't want to look over and see my dog eating something that I have no idea what it is. This crude protein, this yuck of everything. I mean, it's all scientific, and that's what even scares me more, is when you read those bags. I mean, I've told this story before, but I'll repeat it a little bit. We do a pet food pantry for low income here in town, and we give out food to people who are on low income and in need. Obviously, any kind of food is better than no food. So food is donated by Royal Canin, and it's donated by big box stores. Yeah, I cringe, but I also realize, hey, you know what? I'd rather see a dog or a cat eat than starve. So it's kind of one of those things. So we had some guys that are they're doing community service, and I'm sitting in this shed, and I'm reading off all the ingredients, and I'm telling them what everything is. And by the end of the event, they were just like, I'm not touching that stuff. I don't want that for my dog. Nope. And it was kind of funny because here's a bunch of guys who, at the beginning of the day, just thought that a regular big player was good for their dogs, and then at the end, they go, nope, not touching that ever again. My dog's not going to eat that crap.
That's good. It's interesting. I've seen it happen in many ways in the many years that I've been doing this. What turns people on to thinking about how to feed their dog a different way, and sometimes it's unfortunately most of the time it's when their dog becomes ill.
Yes,
it's true with people too. When people get sick, it's like save me, save me, save me. But sometimes it's the other. It isn't that way. I remember very clearly having a conversation with a gentleman. I'm going to say 10 years ago. He was calling me. He actually wanted to sell me something, and we started talking. He's like, I love my dog. My dog is like my daughter. I love her. She's wonderful. She's just a great dog. And I said, that's so nice. I'm so glad to hear that. What are you feeding? And he told me he's feeding some bag of food.
Right.
And I said, that's interesting. That's probably not the health. You asked me about my soapbox. I did tell him. I said, that's probably not the healthiest thing for your dog. And he said, really? I said, well, what do you do? He said, well, I go to the gym every day. I eat vegetarian. I only eat GMO-free, grass-fed this and, no preservatives. I said, so you're very conscientious about what you eat yourself? He said, yeah, my wife and I are complete health nuts. And I said, and didn't you ever think that maybe for this beloved dog that you have, that you should be thinking about her nutrition? And he said, I never thought about that. I'm going to switch today. I'm going to change. What should I feed? So it was really interesting to see that here's this person who obviously had thought a great deal about his own health and what he was eating. He adored his dog, but he'd never made the jump to think about what he was feeding to the dog, because a dog eats dog food. We're so we are so
Programmed.
consumed. Yeah, we're programmed. We're programmed by what we see on TV, by commercials, by the veterinarians who are telling us dogs need to eat dog food, that you just don't make that jump necessarily. As soon as I said it to him, he made the connection, and he said, I feel so stupid. I can't believe I never thought about my dog's nutrition. But there are people who, he's very bright, very interesting. Obviously, what money wasn't an issue for him. He just hadn't ever made the connection.
Right. And it
but
happened.
once he did, he was like, oh, you're 100% right. I'm going to start feeding your food immediately. So it's interesting how people come to it. But it's always lovely to see the light bulb go on. And you hope that that they figure it out before their dog gets sick. And it's very sad, because from our end, I see an awful lot of dogs who have problems, a lot of problems. And it's a whole lot easier to take care of the problem before it happens than once the animal is sick.
Agreed. Now,
so prevention is always a lot easier than cure. Agreed.
Well, and see, you're able to do that. Yes, you do get the soapbox. It's just in a different format, which is it always ends up coming back to this. I always find that there is a soapbox somewhere, and I always find that to be extremely funny, but I don't know why. I just another thing that clicks into my head.
No, we're definitely. Listen, we're standing on a lot of soapboxes here at Dr. Harvey's. We've been on the soapbox for a long time. I want to say that we've been on the soapbox for 30 years, and when Dr. Harvey stood on that soapbox 30 years ago, people thought he was insane. What do you mean cook for my dog? What are you talking about?
I'm going to go back to
dog food.
I have to go back to something. I have to go back to 30 years ago. And when you mentioned it, because it's been kind of triggering in my head, and I was born in 81, and I remember that freeze-dried became a thing, and they were almost selling it as like the astronauts use, if I remember best. That's how it was early 80s, and that, you could get astronaut food, and it'd be this freeze-dried whatever. And that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking back to that time, and I keep thinking, it's processing, and what, during the 80s, everything had that almost science to it. So I can see where it started to work. Huh. Right. I thought I was going to reference that.
But 30 years ago, if you look back to where the pet food industry was 30 years ago, the whole idea of feeding raw or feeding frozen or feeding freeze-dried or anything other than kibble and can, this was the era of Alpo and kennel ration, and this is what you fed your dog. But what I always want people to understand is that is an industry that was created. The whole pet industry, in my opinion, is a fake industry. Because prior to there being a pet industry, people fed their dogs scraps for thousands and thousands of years. They fed what was left over from their table to their dogs. Now, I don't know if anybody can tell me that those dogs lived less long, or that they were less healthy. I like to believe that they were healthier.
I would think so. Because they had all the proteins. And it's a guess, but I mean, I would think so. Because if you look back, I mean, I look back to, I'll even look back to TV from like Lassie. I look back to that era and watch that dog. That dog doesn't look like it ate garbage. It looked like it actually ate off the table. So I'm gonna take a wild guess. And I remember we talked to the guy who played Lassie, and he said that those dogs were pretty well taken care of. So I'm gonna go with the fact that yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't go with Alpo or some kind of garbage. And it's true, the dogs did eat scraps off the table. So I really don't understand how we ever really got here. You know, I know Cole did a great job of putting that together in his movie. I'm thinking back on somebody came up with a great idea. Hey, let's make kibble, and out of this and that, and we can box it or can it or bag it, and there we go. It shocks me.
Well, it actually came from Purina, who made horse feed, and they realized that they could use what was left over and make it into this kibble cookie and sell it for dogs. And then, unfortunately, the vets embraced this, and they said, you know, we're going to put a vitamin pack in there, and that's going to make it a balanced meal for dogs and you know, and for cats. And so that's why I always say it's a fake industry. It's developed out of you know, people who found a way to make money from feeding our animals, and it's unfortunately not what's good for the animals.
No.
It's really not what's good for the animals. It's not healthy. And that's what we've been on our soapbox about for 30 years.
Well, I just like to know that other people are on soapboxes, and that I'm not just some weird, crazy person just running around Walmarts and grocery stores. I might, okay, now, all fairness, I am a weirdo running around Walmart and grocery stores. I understand that, but I just want to know that, you know, I'm not as weird. Now, of course, we've talked a lot about dogs, and we have mentioned cats, and you guys do have you have, is it two different products for cats? One was vegetable, which I thought that's what caught my attention, was vegetable.
Right.
VEG,
So vegetable is just a combination of dehydrated vegetables that if you're feeding your cat raw,
yes.
You can add a little bit of vegetable to the raw. And it gives them the fiber and the added goodness and nutrition from the vegetables. But we honestly believe that cats are obligate carnivores, mm-hmm. and that feeding them primarily meat, you know, they need 25% more protein than mm-hmm. dogs. So we don't offer as much for cats. We have Oracle for cats, and some cats like it, but cats are cats. You know, they're very picky. Most dogs, I mean, there are some picky dogs, but most dogs will eat just about anything. Cats, on the other hand, are very texture concerned, and so some cats do love Oracle and some don't. Vegetable, again, it's a premix made from 9 different vegetables that it's great. I feed it to my cats. My cats love it, but my cats are raw fed, so I just mix it in with the raw food, and they love it, and it's really, really healthy for them. But as I said earlier, my biggest pet peeve in the industry is kibble for cats. So anything, I say buy canned food, feed canned food, feed wet food, anything. Don't feed kibble to cats.
My big thing with the vegetable that I came to, and I looked at it, I read about it, and I went, you know, I get it. Cats are carnivores, and I have nothing to add to it. But I love the fact that you actually added it. 9 ingredients. I mean, that's not 5. That's not less. It's the way I looked at it was you had the contents of what was in, you know, and let's just take everything out of the, in the house, in the kitchen, wherever you feed your cats, back out to the wild. You have raw, you're adding this in, and it's like the content of the actual animal that this cat has hunted, which is the typical mm-hmm. way that it was done. And you guys added the actual needs, you know, and that's the part that really got me. I was like, you know, you didn't have to do much. You didn't have to do much at all for a mic drop. You simply came up with this. You had the Oracle, which, you know, we're going to go into in a second, but it's one of those simple, hey, look, we're going to cover that And it's just like all the other products, you deal with the protein, whatever you see fit, whether it be, a chicken, or for some who actually will get rabbit or whatever they're going to give their cats, but you covered it. And that was a base that I don't think a lot of places would have actually thought about doing. So I really had to give you that. And I absolutely love the name that you came up with and the way that you wrote it in.
That's nice. That's very nice. Well, the other thing is that these are totally untainted. We don't use any preservatives. We don't use any dyes. We don't use any coloring agents. So what you see is what you get. There's a variety of vegetables because we think that's super important. But everything is very pure. So anything that we use, the ingredients themselves are pure, and then we don't add anything to it to mess it up. We just keep it in its very purest state.
And see, again, it's so simplistic, and yet it was the biggest thing. I mean, and again, you have a lot here to work with, but I thought it was so simple that it needed that special attention. I thought it was great. I really did.
Well, that's great. Thanks.
Now,
Yes, I love it.
I also was interested in something else, and you topicked on it, but birdseed. I mean, it was like, of course, you can buy the standard, little stuff in the stores, but you really don't know if it's really quality. I mean, I guess birdseed, some people could say birdseed's birdseed. I think that there's probably, just like cat food, like dog food, a special recipe for it. And so I was like, how did this happen? How did you guys come up with it? I know you have specific types for specific birds. You had, if I'm not mistaken, it was 8 different kinds. And I was just interested in that.
So we make blends, avian blends for all cage birds, from parrots to finches, so big birds to tiny birds. And each one is size specific. But we start with the whole nuts, seeds, fruits, and vegetables, and we grind it to be size specific. So we don't buy pieces and we don't buy seconds. We use the whole the whole vegetable, the whole nut, the whole seed, and grind it for the finches. But the big birds get the whole ones because they love that. And our joke about our parrot food is that the macadamia nuts never make it to the cage. My great story about our bird food is many years ago, we used to do a lot of bird fairs, and I had a woman come and buy a big 4-pound bag of parrot food from me. And she came back the next day and she said, I want to get another bag of parrot food. And I said, didn't you come yesterday and buy a big bag of parrot food? She said, yeah, but my grandson sat in front of the TV last night and ate the whole bag.
Well, it goes back to the dog food. I mean, if it's good for humans, then there you go.
Well, our bird food is really just a variety of fantastic nuts, pecans and Brazil nuts and hazelnuts and macadamia nuts and papaya and mango and vegetables, and it's just fabulous. And again, no preservatives, no dyes, no little pieces that are like Lucky Charms that get stuck in there, and no kibbles and bits. It's all just natural, the way birds would eat in the wild. And we know that birds like texture and variety, and if you don't put that in there, they get very bored, and there's all kinds of problems with birds. And I want to say 25 years ago, the bird industry changed, and they developed a kibble for birds. It's called pellets, and a lot of people believe that they had to feed their bird pellets, and that became very trendy in the bird industry. You had to feed your bird pellets because these were pellets that had all the nutrition that a bird needed, very similar to the kibble. And we never believed in pelletized food. We never liked pelletized food. We don't feed our own birds pelletized food. We never came out with a pelletized food, and we just stuck to what we're doing. And of course, as trends do, it's kind of, a lot of people still feed pellets to their birds, but our bird foods are really very specialized. Birds are incredible animals. Parrots can live 70, 80 years, so you want to feed them well. Different than a dog, they have a very, very long life, and so it's important to feed them healthfully, and so that's a big part of what we do here is feeding the birds.
I'll tell you, if I had a bird, there'd be, hands down, I would be buying my bird food from you. Just awesome. It's just awesome. Now, one thing that I was, as I'm going through, I was thinking to myself, okay, you've covered cats, you've covered dogs, and you covered birds, which would definitely fall into that exotic pet category. Have you thought about actually reaching out to other exotics? I was thinking about hedgehogs or just anything that's an exotic. Has there been any talk about that, or you're going to stay in this?
We have, yeah. Over the years, we have actually thought about small exotic animals, rabbits, and we've been asked many times, guinea pigs, ferrets, and we. There's only so much that a small company can do. We want to do what we do well. And I wouldn't say that it's totally out of the question as we move forward in the future of Dr. Harvey's, but for the moment, we really, our largest part of our business is dog, and bird probably is second, and cat is probably third. And, we're small and we have limited resources, and we want to continue to do what we're doing and do it well. We can't be everything to everybody. And fortunately, there are some other good companies out there that are doing foods for exotics. And for the moment, that would be on a back burner.
And totally understandable. I mean, you want to always make sure you keep your standards exactly where they're at. A lot of times you'll notice big companies or small companies that are growing and then have that size, they want to branch out to everything, and then the standards fall. So I really have to say that's a smart move. It was just curiosity though, because I was like, I wonder. Especially rabbits.
No, it's a good question, and we are asked about it, but you can't be everything to everybody. We would rather do what we do, and that we know what we do very well. We are developing new products all the time. We are going to be coming out with a new immune system herbal supplement. It's a AM/PM supplement. We haven't even, we're just in the packaging. Dr. Harvey's formulation is done. We hope to have that launched and ready to go for the Holistic Veterinary Conference in October. But that's something for your fans to look out for, because I think it's going to be really revolutionary in the supplement world.
That's going to be exciting.
Anyone has done it. It's a combination of incredible herbs and mushrooms, actually, and some Chinese herbs that he's been using. And we're also coming out with a new supplement to support kidney function. And so those are all going to be launched at the same time, and we're working hard on those to get those out. So we try to, as I said earlier, we are always in development and researching new ways to help the animals that we do work with, and coming out with products that are not like anything else on the market, that we can really make available to people to help them.
And see, again, going back to, we're focusing on the product and keeping the standards is exactly what you're doing. Yes, you're coming up with new recipes that are going to help, but you're keeping your standards. So you're not branching out and, well, let's try to tweak this so that, this rabbit can get the exact, and then we might have to lower standards here. See, that's exactly where it all comes back to, and I have to appreciate that. And everybody has to appreciate that.
Yeah. It's a lot about, when you're in business, there's a lot of things that you are confronted with where you could compromise and save money, or compromise and make more money. And as I said earlier, it's really never been about that for us. It's about keeping the standard very, very high, and making sure that our mission stays. We're not the biggest. We don't care about being the biggest. We care about being the best. And we've never really flinched on that. We've never changed the way we think about it.
Well, again, you guys have been around for 3 decades. I mean, you're doing something right. Just saying.
I hope so.
Now, my next thing, because we talked about it before, I wasn't going to spring this on you, so don't think, well, boy, I'm glad we talked about it. I was actually glad we talked about it before we started, but I had sent you a message about Cole Harrington. And for all of you who don't know, well, then you haven't been listening to the podcast, Cole Harrington actually directed the movie Pet Fool on Netflix. And on demand. I mean, I have mine. I have my copy on my Vudu, which is still my favorite movie. That's on my actual digital catalog. And I had said, would you be interested in doing a segment for Cole on his Talk to Us campaign? And so I will actually let you answer that because obviously I know the answer, but I'm almost sure Cole is listening to this because I'm going to send him a message that, hey, you want to listen to this? So I'm going to leave the mic over to you and let you tell him any kind of message you'd like.
Well, hey, Cole, if you're listening, I'm happy to speak out, and this is very nice that you've asked us to be a part of your Talk to Us campaign. And as you know, I'm very friendly with Taz, who's been doing a great job for you on your Facebook Lives. And we also help sponsor the New York launch of Pet Food when you premiered it in New York. And we would love to be part of the Talk to Us campaign. We'd be thrilled to have you come and learn all about Dr. Harvey's right here in our facility in New Jersey.
And I love Taz Latifi. I do too. You were saying that you've known her for a long time. I've
known her for a long time. Yes, she carries Dr. Harvey's in her wonderful store in downtown New York, and she's an incredibly knowledgeable person. She's a great gift to her customers because she knows so much, and she's extremely picky about what she puts into her store, and we're very, very honored that she's a big lover of Dr. Harvey's, and she's loving the new paradigm, which is great.
And you know what? It's funny. I didn't even have this discussion with her about having you on. It was just, again, back to the right people, quality, not quantity. And I had sent her a message, I want to say a week or two ago, and she goes, "Oh, perfect choice." And then I find out, oh, she's a huge supporter of you guys. I'm like, oh, okay. That's great. Then I'm more happy that I was choosing the right person to talk to and getting behind the right product. And another thing, anytime somebody talks to me about nutrition, I can guarantee when they don't want to do raw, they don't want to do kibble, pretty much the simple line is, let's start with Dr. Harvey, then you go to raw. There's always an option, and you're definitely on that top list right there. There's a 1 and a 1 and a 1, and that's it. And you're definitely on there.
Well, that's great to hear. Well, it's people like you and Taz who have been big fans and promoters of what we're doing, and not just what we're doing, but the message about feeding our animals better. That, as I said, we all are part of the same mission, and we're all about educating and helping in any way we can to get our animal population as healthy as we possibly can.
And I'm hoping that in the next couple of years that, again, and I had said this before we started, I'm hoping that we'll start to see the word pet feed on bags. I'm starting to really get this hope that the climate is definitely changing, and it seems like it is, and I'm really hopeful. I am very hopeful. Is there anything that we missed talking about? I mean, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I just don't want to leave anything behind.
Well, I think we've covered a great deal of ground, and it's been my great pleasure to talk to you, and I hope we can do it again sometime, and maybe we can get Dr. Harvey to chat with you at some point. We'll free up his schedule, and I think that would be interesting for your listeners.
Anytime. I mean, that's been the fun part about doing all of these is that there's this relationship with these great people that I'm starting to form, and it's been amazing. It's been an honor. I take none of this lightly. I'm very honored to be able to talk to you. I'd be honored to talk to Dr. Harvey. I'd be very happy to talk to you again. I just think that what you guys are doing over there is just amazing. I love the fact that your kids are involved. It makes me feel good about knowing every day I go to work with my wife, and it is an absolute pleasure. It is a joy to work with your spouse. A lot of people say, and I haven't even mentioned this part yet, people always ask, how do you work with your spouse? And I just look at her and I go, it's the easiest coworker I've ever had to work with in my life. And I guess I'm going to ask you the same question. Do you ever get asked, is it hard to work with your husband? I couldn't work with my husband every day. Does that ever come up in any kind of questions to you?
Sure, sure. People ask me that all the time. But the interesting part of it has always been that we have we each have our own role. You know, he does what he does, and I do what I do, and we all believe in this mission of helping animals. So at the end of the day, even if we disagree about a decision that we've made or the direction that we want to go, we always come together because in the end, it's really what are we doing best that we can do to get the word out that this is a good way to help keep your animal healthy. And when you keep that at the forefront, it doesn't matter really about the day-to-day. And, you know, as I said, it's a real division. He spends all his days on the phone with people and doing his R&D and watching the production, and I'm more watching out for the business part of it and doing our social media and working with my sons in development. And one son does procurement and runs the plant operation, and the other son is part of our technical, does all of our technical stuff, our website, all of our inventory management. So everybody has their job, but we all come together because we believe in what we're doing. So it's a great gift to have your family work together.
And an amazing job. I mean, seriously, no joke, an amazing job in every aspect. And it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, I can't thank you enough. And you're making me believe that at least what I'm doing with my wife, we're going down the right path. So thank you for that too.
I'm sure you are. Listen, why don't we do a live podcast from the Holistic Veterinary Conference in October? That would be a lot of fun.
Sure. Let me know when that's going to happen, and I will make some time for you.
Okay, fantastic. That's great. This has been great, really fun. I'm thrilled to be able to be in touch with your listeners, and I think you're doing a fantastic job of bringing these people together and letting people know that there's another way to feed your animal and to not be fooled by what's going on in the pet industry.
Thank you very much, Wendy Cohen, for being on the podcast. I came in with expectations of what I thought Dr. Harvey's was going to have. I came in thinking high quality, very meticulous about the product. Now, my opinion changed. And that is, it changed to realize that it's not just a very high standard company. It's a high standard company with the actual founder continuously making sure the recipes are at the highest standard. A family that have grown up in the company to keep it strong and keep it growing. That is everything. And for somebody who talks to all people in the pet industry, these are very hard to get every single duck to line up in a row. So for me, I walked in, I expected the quality there, I expected a good product, but boy, isn't it much more? It's so much more. And to know that they continue to strive for it and have created a next generation to take over to build the brand and continue the product, that's so exciting to me. And what an honor and a privilege it was to be able to sit down and talk to Wendy and to learn a little bit about her family and to learn a lot more about Dr. Harvey's that I didn't know. So I hope that all of you have been able to take a little bit out of this. Personally, for me, when Sarah and I are at the shop, we have a lot of times people will come in, they talk about their pet's skin, the allergies that they're having, might be issues with the coat, etc., etc. And as I've mentioned in previous episodes, it's our job to have that conversation with the pet parents. And a lot of times I always do mention, well, you always have the option of raw diet. I have the other option of there are deliveries, but I really haven't been able to lock down anything yet that I'm really that passionate about. And then, of course, there's home recipes. But the difference between all of that is I really am leading with this is a great product with the right ingredients, everything that's right for our pets. We choose our protein. We mix up our proteins for our dogs and our cats. And that's also very unique to me and extremely important. And I hope it's important to you guys. I hope that I'm not just sitting here blabbing and talking to dead air, because I really do feel like these are everything that meets the nutritional goals for our pets and the direction. I'm really happy to see Dr. Harvey's going down, and I'm very happy to know that so many people are for it, including Taz. Taz Latifi, as we mentioned, here's somebody who is one of the top people I actually have been able to talk to and learn stuff from. And I look at her and think, you're probably at the top of the knowledge when it comes to nutrition. So, as I had said to Wendy earlier, I wasn't, going through Taz to find out, hey, who should I talk to? It just so happened to come around and say, oh yeah, I'm interviewing Wendy from Dr. Harvey's, and she's like, oh, great product. And so, yeah, I had a little bit of an insight. Oh wow, somebody I actually will listen to for a top product recommendation had said, oh, really good product. But then it's like all of this factored in really, really solidified it for me. So, people come into the shop, they talk about, I can't have raw diet. It just isn't going to work for me. This is right there. They're 1 in 1. There is no, to me right now, there isn't a 2. It's the perfect blend. I mean, you can have raw diet and this, and it really factors really well together. I'm actually a little bit blown away by it. So I hope that you guys all took a lot out of this episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. I know I did, and I look forward to what's coming around, because obviously we have a lot more to talk about, and a lot more will come out of different areas of this. So, excuse me. I'm really, really excited. So for that reason, I'm Chris Green. Have a pet-tastic week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Okay, guys.